And now we're going to get to the real speakers, the ones who are the real experts. Our first speaker is Earl Buford. And those of you that don't know Earl, he's the president of CAEL. He oversees the national nonprofit organization's work to improve education to career pathways for adult learners. He's most recently served as Chief Executive Officer of Partner for Work, the leader of public workforce system for Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, which happens to be a area I know pretty well, where he managed public and private funds to deliver innovative solutions to ensure that current and future needs of businesses and job seekers are met. Please welcome Earl Buford.
Good afternoon, everyone. Very energetic group, I can tell. This is going to be fun. Two things. First of all, I feel really bad for the glare in this room because it's a bad combination when the glare in my head hit each other. So just if you see that, just work through it with me. Rob, thank you for that introduction. I'm really excited for the opportunity to speak to you today. Again, my name is Earl Buford, president of CAEL, the Council on Adult and Experiential Learning. And Rob really set me up nicely with things that he covered in 5 minutes, and he gave me 40 minutes. So let's see if we can expand on the great things he talked about. It's particularly, the cool new name, One EdTech, Power Learner Potential, and the innovative ecosystem for every learner. It just really kind of captures what I'm going to speak about today. So I'm just really happy that we had that introduction, and just really excited we're all in the same room for the first time in probably a couple years for most of you. If not that, it has been soon enough. So, for those of you who may not be familiar with CAEL, we are a national nonprofit membership organization. Our vision is that every adult can navigate lifelong learning and career pathways that fuel social mobility and community prosperity. I can't think of one person in this room that would disagree with that. I think most of our work, respective work, is geared towards that. Our mission is to engage with educators, employers, community leaders to align learning and work so that adults can achieve their academic and career success and fulfill their economic goals and the equitable economic growth. And again, I don't think anyone here disagrees with that. And Rob made a great point earlier about us all working together to achieve that. And I think if we haven't learned anything in the past 2 years is that we cannot do it alone. Individually, institutionally, it's really about an ecosystem that supports education and educators, that supports adult learners and students and workers, and also supporting industry. And there's other things that can fit into that ecosystem, but those are, to me, the three pillars that we need to work on moving forward. So whenever CAEL is invited to address a group like this, or even to just attend an event, our natural response is to look for connections for our vision and mission, which is on the screen. And before I move forward, I want to thank my colleague, Doug Heckman, who has the most important job of anyone in this room today, and that's controlling the screen. So, Doug, thank you. So in the case of the IMS, the artist formerly known as IMS Digital Credential, today's summit, we didn't have to look very far. Excited to be here, excited to get to meet most of you, and some of you I've seen and met before, so thank you for that. There are many instances of us working together. That really exemplifies the challenges, the opportunities that come with stakeholders of CAEL, stakeholders of IMS, and the work that you do. But I want to start with an oversimplified analogy that I think kind of captures where students are at more often than not. So imagine if our currency only came in one denomination, let's say $100 bills. But also imagine if everything you needed to buy was worth only $20. You still have to pay $100 every time, and you receive no change. Just think about that for a second. I can repeat it for those who didn't hear it very well in the back. For some learners, that's the way the traditional post-secondary education model seems to work for them. But I can tell you all, and you live it every day, that a lot of universities and institutions have become much more flexible over time. They now offer new models with more sub-degree programs that not only meet the immediate workforce needs, but also stacked into traditional degree programs, really bring those things together. Digital credentials offer us the opportunity to enhance these synergies moving forward. So thank you for the work that you've done leading up to this moment. So with that potential in mind, it's easy to see how these things converge with the mission of CAEL and also help bind our respective communities of practice together. For evidence of that, just look around the room. We have dozens of colleges and universities from the US and abroad with K-12 educators in the room. Here virtually, we have several state government agencies, lots of nonprofit organizations, and even some Fortune 500 companies. It's almost as if just past November, CAEL held its annual conference, and we had over 500 individuals in person and 300 virtually. And felt the same energy at that conference that I'm feeling here today. And so it's really, to me, a continuation of the great energy and goodwill that we had in November, where I think the thing that was most exciting for me at the onset of Omicron was the fact that people were excited to be in the room, but most importantly, we're excited to talk and connect and learn and partner. So just, over the course of our 3.5 days at the conference, just seeing groups of educators and practitioners come together, and you can see in the conversation how excited they were to be around one another. So I can only imagine how many great deals happened coming out of that conference. I assume the same will happen after this conference. So the collaboration among practitioners and policymakers like you that guide our vision empowers the mission of CAEL. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges and opportunities that we all share. I want to focus on how our priorities intersect, but hopefully this will spur discussions about how that intersection can create opportunities that amplify our joint impact, especially around creating a more inclusive learning environment for all. It turns out that this is a pretty busy intersection. It's only getting more popular. And that's because what we're really talking about is the intersection of learning and work. It's where the CAEL community spends all of our time, because if you want to meet adult learners where they are, that's where you'll find them, at the intersection of learning and work. And as the lines between learning and work continue to blur, that intersection expands to encompass all corners of education. After all, it's never too early to align classroom programs with the skills and knowledge that drive career success. When academic credentials convey work-relevant competencies, they make all of those on and off ramps a lot easier for learners to navigate, with their broad benefits rating in all directions from all those intersections. We shouldn't try to confine our students to a single path to find education and career success. Instead, we must do a better job to meet those students where they are along the plethora of paths that can define the journey. Because if we don't, we're going to continue to lose them. This is exactly where digital credentials shine. They promise to unequivocally tie academic credentials with real-life job duties. When they do that, they can create intersections of their own, places where theory and practice don't conflict, but instead coalesce. In order to fulfill that potential, they need to be effective for learners, workers, for educators, and employers alike. The theme here that we all work on every day. By building these diverse partnerships, we can fully realize the potential of digital credential to achieve equitable efficiency. We can cultivate living links between learning and work if we continue to think about it this way. Equitable efficiency is centered on the idea that learning is a two-way street. Students gain valuable knowledge from the classroom experience, but they can also enrich the classroom with their own experiences, what they bring from outside the classroom, if only those experiences are recognized and affirmed within that learning environment. That commitment to diversity must start at the K-12 level by acknowledging the lived experiences of all learners. And it must continue with adult learners by embracing credit for prior learning, or CPL, which it's now known. It was previously known as Prior Learning Assessment, or PLA. I must admit, prior to coming to CAEL, I had an industry background, and PLA meant something completely different in my old industry. So it took me about 3 months to transition to, say, Prior Learning Assessment from Project Labor Agreement. Thank you for those that had laughed at that. I didn't get 1 or 2 chuckles, so I appreciate that. But it did take me 3 months, though. CPL, Credit for Prior Learning, is at the heart of CAEL's legacy and remains one of our signature causes and has been for most of our 48-year history. Just as they do for classroom learning, digital credentials have great potential for documenting and verifying competencies gained through experiences. By definition, CPL is a diversifying instrument. It opens up new pathways to post-secondary credentials and allows students to attain their academic and professional goals more quickly by building on what they already know and can do. In the process, CPL significantly boosts completion rates and saves students substantial time and money. Unfortunately, although our research shows that Black and lower-income adult students receive strong boosts to credential completion from CPL, we also know they are the least likely to receive such credit. Closing this equity gap is an opportunity to also enhance the benefits of CPL. Those benefits drive institutional access and to success as well, and not just by upholding their reputations through the improved student outcomes that they hinge on. Because CPL students are more likely to persist and complete with a key on completion, they complete more traditional course credits as well. And because CPL is a natural bridge between professional and academic experience, it nourishes the living links between learning and work. That adds up to an improved student retention rate and increased revenue for the institution. And all of the above adds up to a new national grassroots campaign that CAEL is launching to encourage greater use of CPL programs in your institutions and across the academic spectrum abroad. The campaign includes new resources available to institutions at no cost that will help you all use CPL to broaden access to education while helping students complete those credentials more quickly, more affordably, and sustainably. To learn more about this and how you can participate, I encourage you to visit us at CAEL.org, which will flash shortly. Along with being more inclusive about how competencies can be gained, we must also be mindful about the diversity of those competencies. Work-relevant skills are not limited to STEM, tech jobs, or even academic advancement. 84% of employers plan to digitize worker processes in the near future, and some of the most sought-after traits are also called soft skills. These soft skills include communication, critical thinking, analysis, problem solving, and skills in self-management such as active learning, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. And I know there's some debate about soft skills or reliable skills or other kind. I don't really care what you call it. The point is, it must be combined with the credentials that are moving forward. So I just wanted to make that point. Recently, a Burning Glass report found that more than 80% of middle skill jobs depend on digital skills. Again, something most of you already know. But overall, jobs that demand skills in multiple areas are growing twice as fast as general employment and command salaries that are 20 to 40% higher. And although nearly half of these jobs are at risk of automation, only about 10 of these so-called hybrid jobs can be automated. So while we've all heard the warning about a jack of all trades, there is some value in having a diverse skill set, or at least avenues for adapting to them, which I'll talk about later. We don't need to just diversify the way you think about the qualitative nature of skills. Just consider the shrinking shelf life of skills and what that means from a quantitative standpoint. Without access to continual learning opportunities, today's skilled employees could very well become tomorrow's underskilled displaced worker. And we know how that turns out. And tomorrow may be here sooner than you think. 40% of workers will require reskilling within 6 months of employment. And nearly half of what today's college freshmen learn will be obsolete by the time they graduate. That doesn't mean skills are necessarily more important than credentials. I'm not saying that. What it does mean is that they're absolutely the most important aspect of credentials. Credentials must be an accurate proxy of an array of shifting work-relevant competencies, whether they are encoded in micro-credentials or badges or anything that we deem necessary to move forward. But really connecting to those bachelor programs and graduate programs are also a necessity. So my point in all this is I don't want to leave anything out. Whatever the ladder is of training, credentialing, and growth, it just must be thought about as a combined effort and part of this larger ecosystem. I know there's debates about credentials and badges versus degrees. I'm not that person. It's all important. And if it sounds like a lot, it is a lot. Credential Engine has identified nearly 1 million unique credentials in the US alone. As these choices proliferate, they promise greater opportunity for employers, educators, and students. They can be those living links between learning and work that we've talked about earlier. And this all has special potential for adult learners. For them, student is just one of many roles in their busy lives. They're also parents, workers, caregivers, amongst other things they are in their lives. Each of these roles compete for all their time, and it leaves a little time for that. So I think we all acknowledge that, we're all made up of lots of different things, as our students and our workers are. So unbundling the educational experience shifts from an all or nothing to a build as you go model of college completion. It's not the way it used to be. It means you don't have to spend $100 of your hard-earned money for $20 worth of value, for those who recall that analogy I used earlier. It's more inclusive, it's more conducive to successful outcomes in education and employment, offers new ways for colleges to remain relevant in a rapidly changing post-secondary landscape. What's the term, evolve or die? Well, I'm not going to be that blatant about it, but you get the idea. I think we all recognize that unbundling isn't easy. It can also further muddy the already complex pathways learners must navigate. As learners consider all the options out there, digital credentials and traditional degree paths must offer a both and complement, not an either or gamble. As we expand the paradigm of education, it becomes all the more challenging to remain on the same page. So we need a common language, because they are 1 million credentials that create constellations, not chaos. And that's where I see the greatest potential for digital credentials. They can ensure academic milestones project work readiness in a language that all parties can understand and access. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. So I'm just going to go over a few signs that we're not there speaking the same language as of yet. I'll just read a few things for you. Less than half employers today believe that new college graduates possess vital competencies like written and oral communication. Less than half. Just over 1/3 of business leaders feel that institutions leave graduates with sufficient training. Only 1 out of 10 strongly believe that post-secondary education confers competencies. They're chilling numbers. Only 1/3 of post-secondary students in the U.S. believe they will graduate with the competencies needed for a career success. Only about 1/4 of U.S. workers who have attended college strongly agree that their educational experience is relevant outside of the classroom. Yet with all of that, educational aspirations remain high. Less than 20% of Americans feel that a family member should limit their education to a high school diploma. About half respondents in the 2020 survey said the pandemic had increased their interest in pursuing additional education, with about half expressing enrollment plans over the next 6 months. So there's that positive progress. On the employment side, 3/4 of companies favor reskilling workers over hiring new employees. And 94% of business leaders say they expect workers to acquire new skills after being hired. Again, however, enrollment in higher ed dropped another 3% in fall of 2021. The overall loss in enrollment in the 2 years since the pandemic was 5%, which equates to nearly 1 million students nationwide. Meanwhile, boot camp enrollment increased more than 30% from 2019 to 2020. 36 million people in the U.S. have some college experience but do not complete a degree. More than 3 million of them receive two or more years of credit before stopping. And just know that this isn't just a problem for higher ed. Prior to the pandemic, the World Economic Forum said that 1/3 of the global workforce, more than 1 billion people, would need to reskill by 2030. COVID-19 prompted the organization to raise the estimate to 40%. But upskilling isn't limited to just saving jobs. The World Economic Forum also found that it could result in a net gain of 5 million new jobs by 2030, including nearly 3 million here in the US. The WEF further found that investing in upskilling can add $6.5 trillion to the global GDP by 2030. The gain here in the US could total $900 billion by 2030, which is nearly 4%, of our overall GDP. 2 more points. In manufacturing alone, the US faces a shortage of workers that is projected to grow by a little over 2 million by 2030. Almost 80% of manufacturers project challenges in recruiting and retaining workers well past 2021, which not surprising again. This has wide-ranging ramifications. The total in the US economy from just the skills gap in manufacturing could total $1 trillion by 2030. Ironically, the shortage of jobs can be a self-perpetuating problem. For example, enhanced infrastructure spending promises to create jobs and revitalize roads. Very exciting to have this infrastructure come into play. But the foundation of such efforts, especially in the construction industry, it's already struggling for workers. So to have this stimulus is going to just exacerbate the problem even further for that industry. And that's just one of many industries. So, I didn't come here today to give you gloom and doom and numbers. Thank you for that. There are some silver linings, I promise you. But I'd be remiss if we didn't give you the information that's out there, just to show you that there's a lot of work to be done and why it's necessary for us to come together. Other surveys have shown that adults and employers overwhelmingly see value in earning sub-degree credentials, such as badges and micro-credentials. In 2020 alone, enrollment in short-term credentials surged 70% during a period of drastic decrease in overall college enrollment, 70%. So considering I mentioned earlier about skills gaps and labor shortages, none of this is a surprise. You work with this, you deal with this, you've heard this all. But if digital credentials can make educational qualifications more portable, interoperable, and also universally verifiable, they can shorten the distance between students and their goals. Goals that can connect to everyone in this room, because you all work towards it every day. Goals that can bring us all together in that intersection of learning and work. So every busy intersection needs some good crosswalks. Think of the potential that digital credentials offer to displaced workers, which there are many in this country. The pandemic hit low-wage workers especially hard. Millions of jobs are lost that may never return as new ones are being created. But career changes often mean going back to school. And most workers know this, most students know this, most adult learners realize this. But this can be overwhelming to them. Where do they start? Who do they talk to? Are they starting from scratch? Are they starting, where is their end game in mind? But what if they don't have to start from scratch, but instead could build on what they already know and know how to move into? With all the widespread disruptions in the workforce created by the pandemic, created by technology, time is of the essence for these displaced workers. The same can be said of employers in growth industries struggling to fill openings amid the rash of all the layoffs and pandemic and every other things we're dealing with. A crosswalk connecting the former and the latter is what I think is the missing link for workers looking to resume their career and their career journeys and more rewarding occupation. So making these kind of transitions require upskilling and reskilling. I think we all agree. That's why we believe more post-secondary educators are complementing their traditional degree programs with innovative short-term certificates and other sub-degree credentials that are both work relevant in the near term and stackable into formal degrees in the long term. I see digital credentials as an opportunity to democratize upskilling and reskilling, amplifying the capacity to address income disparities, worker shortages, and drive equitable economic expansion. When we pair the flexibility offered by digital credentials with credit for prior learning, or CPL, we can make the transition between declining and advancing industries even more seamless and more transparent. Without this visibility, adult learners often can't judge just how far or how close they are to their education and career goals. It's our job to help amplify that. Crosswalk programs unveil opportunities hidden in plain sight, opportunities to remain in their field, in their community, and validate their hard-earned work experiences, and ensure that at the end of their journey, they are part of a larger community, which is really important. This also benefits efforts to address equity challenges. Research recently from the National Fund for Workforce Solutions has found that racial income inequities cost the U.S. economy about $2.3 trillion per year. So finding ways to remove these obstacles to reskilling and reemployment can help solve labor shortages, close skills gaps, advance equity, and in the long run, boost our economy. 4 things I think are important. I'm going to come back to a point I made earlier. I don't think I can quantify how many ways the mission of CAEL intersects with digital credentials, but I can tell you they are increased on a daily basis. Because every day we see new opportunities to build a transformative workforce, and while also supporting, guiding higher ed institutions as they move forward and grow, while also contributing to an equitable culture, and really empowerment for all adult learners. We can't bridge the skills gap that are holding back workers and employers until we build better bridges between academic credentials and industry standards. Digital credentials create new ways to do just that. They make us more effective at centering the experiences of adult learners, not only by valuing those experiences within curricula, but also by scaling educational experiences to the real-time lived experiences of learners. Before I start to wrap up, I want to share a few recent examples of putting theory into practice. Educators and employers coming together to meet learners where they are. I'd like to first highlight something that Rob mentioned earlier, and that is the Wellspring Project, which is led by IMS. CAEL's involvement included our Energy Providers Coalition for Education, which is an education industry partnership that CAEL has managed for over 20 years. EPSI represents energy employers across the country who work together to create, sponsor, and offer easily accessible online education training pathways for the energy industry and for energy workforce. Wellspring is a multi-year initiative to bridge the gap between education and work. Ultimately, it seeks to level the playing field with low bias, data-based recruiting and hiring that centers competencies and skills rather than seat time. It should come as no surprise when I tell you that Wellspring was built on collaboration. Rob mentioned earlier, I'm confirming that, among educators and employers. They worked really hard to identify in-demand skills to inform the construction of digital credentials that could serve as a trusted currency for value learning and workplace achievement. Wellspring completed primary research on the use of competency frameworks with more than 700 employers. It also developed software prototypes that model how digital credentials can sustain the professional and academic mobility that's critical in thriving education and workforce ecosystem. A couple announcements as well. Right now at CAEL, we are building a new national partnership at the K-12 level through what's called Connected Pathways. It's a career exploration system funded by the U.S. Department of Education. This online platform will be personalized, scalable, and adaptable so that underserved learners around the country can use it to make informed decisions about their educational and career pursuits. Connected Pathways, which will be available at no cost to users, will launch later this year. On a similar note, CAEL is joining forces with CIMI, the industry association representing the global electronics manufacturing and design supply chain in the semiconductor industry. Recent supply chain challenges related to the pandemic have thrown a spotlight on just how important the semiconductor industry is becoming in this country. Challenges to its talent pipeline are limiting its enormous impact on the global economy. So CAEL and our partners at Road Trip Nation are working with CIMI and their foundation on an interactive platform to educate and empower women and minority candidates for career advancement within their industry. The platform will help connect underrepresented candidates to available jobs today, while also addressing long-term industry personnel needs with an equity lens. Grants from Stride Education Network and the CIMI Foundation are making this work possible. Also, CAEL soon will announce a new grant-funded project with the potential to expand career pathways and DEI work to several regions around the country. This work will forge partnerships among education providers and employers within financial services in adjacent industries. The collaboration has the intent on better defining viable career pathways in financial services and making them more accessible, with a focus on returning adult learners returning back to school, and also those who are unemployed or working in frontline jobs and looking to advance. Stay tuned for an announcement on this exciting new project as well in the coming months. So what I'm trying to do today is just emphasize the importance of educators, employers, and learners really think about the relationship they have amongst themselves, and how does it all support the other. So I really wanted to just think about that in the lens of educators and employers and industry partnerships really coming together on behalf of those workers in that talent pool. They are literally at the intersection of learning and work, and without adult learners, these links are going to be hard to match, because we see the results of that right now with our Great Resignation detail conversations that are happening. So I want to close, a long-winded close, I might add. I want to close by sharing what I think is the best way to communicate the potential of such collaborations, using a real life story. A gentleman now by the name of Alfred Willock, who goes by Slim, a widowed father of 6. Recently, CAEL presented him at our conference with our Adult Learner of the Year award. Slim's story exemplifies the peril and promise that often define the journey of lifelong learning. So I'll just take a few minutes to explain to you who Slim is. In 2019, Slim completed an online bachelor's degree in computer science from Pace University in New York, which is an educational partner of CAEL's association, NACTEL, which stands for the National Alliance for Communications, Technology, Education, and Learning. It's a collaboration of industry employers and unions working with higher education to create and sponsor online education programs that meet the needs of current and future telecommunication professionals and to address critical employment needs. So back to Slim. Slim's degree was just the latest step in a learning journey that intertwined career and coursework. In fact, as we speak, he's nearing completion of an online master's degree with PACE, which he began working on in 2020 at the onset of the pandemic. But I have to go further back to tell you really why that's important where Slim is today. So 28 years ago, Slim was working as a security guard. So one of those workers that was ready for the next step. He had taken a job in security while completing his Associate's of Arts degree. While on the job, he had regular interaction with employees of the New York Telephone Company, which is now known as Verizon. He worked in the same building as the company. Other employees encouraged him to apply, and he joined the company as an operator for directory assistance. This decision would turn out to play a chance role in launching a different career path for Slim, one that has allowed him to pursue 2 of his passions: learning and interacting with people from all walks of life. Slim soon learned about the educational benefit offered through Next Step, which is a partnership among the companies, a partnership with the company that he worked for, also with the Communication Workers of America and the local community college. Participants in this program, New Step, earned an associate's degree and became telecommunication technical associates. The company provided the student employees a laptop scientific calculator, and time off to attend classes once per week. Employees who complete the program have the opportunity to receive an increase in pay and increased responsibilities on their career pathway within that company. Although Slim had to wait for a slot to open the popular program, with the help of the Credit for Prior Learning credit, he earned his second associate's degree, this one in science. Now in 2019, Slim relished the accomplishment, but still wanted more. He wasn't done learning, he wasn't done climbing his ladder. So one of his coworkers mentioned an educational opportunity program through NACTEL that I mentioned earlier. In this program, employee tuition was covered, which really intrigued Slim in his pursuit for learning and working. Then a tragedy struck Slim. In 2011, Slim's wife, Dawn, died just a week after giving birth to their newest son. He recalls sitting in a chair at his house where well-wishers gathered after the funeral. Right in front of him, people were wondering about how he'd be able to take care of 6 kids while also pursuing his dream of more education and growth in his career. He wanted to do the same. So he had to adjust quickly to a new normal in his daily life. Slim resolved to raise the kids the way he and his wife had always planned. That meant pursuit and persistence in his own commitment to personal and professional improvement. So ultimately, Slim enrolled in that program by NACTEL I mentioned earlier, a few years later, and despite all of his extensive prior post-secondary classwork, it was the first online learning experience he'd ever encountered. He says it took him some time to get used to this, because it's just all new, but he quickly appreciated the increased flexibility and also the work of the instructors walking him through things. So fast forward, thanks to his hard work and support from the PACE faculty, Verizon, the communication workers, and his family, Slim received his Bachelor of Science Information Science Systems degree in December 2019. He was further honored with the Founders Award, which NACTEL and PACE University honors each year at a conference where the graduates demonstrate their passion for the industry and for the work. Slim served on the front lines of the telecom industry support in the fight against COVID. In April 2020, he was a part of a Verizon team that supported the telecom needs of the USNS Comfort, a Navy hospital ship dispatched to New York to reinforce local healthcare resources. Lastly, to support corporate communications and employee engagement, which he's taken on as a career and in life's work, he documented his team's experiences and helped get the word out about his experiences and his growth and those who helped him along the way. So I tell you that story is Slim because I think it really captures everything that that our workers and learners encounter, from personal tragedies, multiple learning experiences, multiple career credentialing moments, and while he was steadfast in his pursuit of it, not every student has that same ability or the same instructors or the same opportunities. And so I wanted to highlight Slim as someone who has persevered, but it took the right employer, it took the right educators, it took family and friends and support to help him get to the point now where he is at the top of his learning curve, having completed all multiple degrees, and also working for, having climbed and making the money to support his 6 kids and as they grow and pursue their next steps. So I just wanted to tell you that story to say, I wanted to support what Rob and IMS Global as they venture to their new name and future partnerships with you all and with us at CAEL, and how important it is that you educators in the room, you have support, you have partners, employers in the room, you have support and you have partners, and our learners and our students, you have support, you have partners, but you also have identifiable methods to help you meet those things. So I just want to thank you all for giving me the time today to talk about who we are at CAEL, some of the things we're working on, but also some of the philosophies and ideas that we know will work once all of us come together. And in closing, I'm going to show you a short video. I think we have it available. Just a short video on the Slim story, because again, I think it captures everything. And I just want to thank you for your time this afternoon.
I have 6 kids, 3 boys, 3 girls. And I love them so much. Come on, let's say grace.
Thank you so much for the food that we're about to receive. Thank you so much for protecting us each and every day.
I lost my wife after she gave birth to the last child, and sometimes we take things for granted. I have to stay strong, and I gotta keep going. Gotta keep going. That's what I'm here for.
It's 7:25, kids.
I poop.
You poop?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Come over here.
We'll be in Astoria today. It's a business. They're getting a triple play. It's like 4 degrees, a wind chill factor of -11, I believe. And I gotta just bundle up and wear some layers. At the end of the day, you gotta feed the kids, you know? I'm not doing it for me anymore. I'm doing it for them. So when you're freezing your buns off, all I do is think about them. Now make sure you hold hands. I grew up out in Flushing, Queens, New York. My grandmother, she had a house out there and she raised us. And I'm so thankful and grateful for her. She was so hard on me because she wanted me to go in the right direction. I mean, it's so easy to get caught up in the fray. A lot of people that I grew up with, not around anymore, you know. Some are dead, some in jail. Verizon has given me a platform to not only be a role model for my kids, but for other people as well. All right, we're ready to go. Got your boxes? I feel I make a difference each and every day. I mean, what more can I ask for? I started Verizon in 1994. I started as a directory assistance operator, which was 411. And now I'm out here, out on the fields, doing what I love doing. So we're gonna run it from here. Okay. We're gonna bring it right here. And the challenge is to get it around the scaffold. You know, working inside in that cubicle wasn't the thing for me. I wanted to be more hands-on. Every day is something different. I mean, there's sometimes I'm in the tower in the airport, and there's other times I'm in the jails on Rikers Island. It's amazing the people I've encountered, places where I went to. I would have never been there if it wasn't for Verizon. You haven't 75, man, it's over 75. You know, you're learning languages, you're learning cultures. I do the whole Queens, the whole borough, some parts of Brooklyn, some parts of Long Island. And whatever I learn, I go home and teach my kids. Guess what Daddy learned today? You all right, lunch? My wife and I, our main goal was to raise our kids in a loving family. I would love her to see her 6 beautiful children growing up to be mature, responsible adults. I've learned so much at a company that shows you so much love and compassion. I feel like I'm at the right place, and I'm glad that I'm here.
Thank you.